Hello. My name is Close Shave Dave. Welcome back to Resident Evil 5. Now, today, it's just going to be reading. I'm going to be reading 12 very lengthy files. So, I mean, this is only relevant if you're actually interested in the lore. But I am. So, let's get to it. So, let's get right into it. Because I am, and I really do actually enjoy. It's the main reason I actually dived headfirst in this series, is after playing 1 I went, hang on, there's a pretty decent story here. So, history of Resident Evil. In the 1960s, engineer Michael Warren begins the electrification of Raccoon City. The fifth head of the Ashford family, Edward Ashford, begins his research into what would later become known as the progenitor virus. In 1962, Oswald E. Spencer enlists architect George Trevor to design and construct a reclusive mansion on the outskirts of Raccoon City. So that's the mansion in 1. 1966, December. Oswald E. Spencer, James Marcus, and Edward Ashford officially established the progenitor virus, which reconstitutes a living organism's DNA. 1967, November. The construction of the mansion and lab facilities in the Arklay Mountain is completed. Jessica and Lisa Trevor are injected with a variant of the progenitor virus. That was the progenitor virus, not the T virus. That's interesting. The virus fails to establish itself in Jessica, and she is subsequently disposed of. The virus shows promise in Lisa, and as a result, she is placed under close observation. So that's the witch lady that frightened me so much in 1, the one that couldn't be killed. George Trevor is chosen to be a test subject. However, due to his intimate knowledge of the mansion facility, he is disposed of instead. We actually found his corpse, I believe, in 1. 1968. Construction of Raccoon City's public transit trolleys begins in Europe, and they are quickly put into use within the city. Spencer funds the pharmaceutical company Umbrella with Marcus and Edward Ashford. The company is established to mask their biological research. July. Edward Ashford contracts the progenitor virus and dies. His son, Alexander Ashford, succeeds him as head of the Ashford family. August. The Umbrella training facility is established in the Arklay Mountains with Marcus appointed as director, so that's the one in 0. 1969, February. Alexander Ashford begins to design a facility in Antarctica. He secretly makes plans to build an underground laboratory for the purpose of the Code Veronica project. That's in Antarctica? Okay, good to know. November. Umbrella's Antarctic base and research facilities are completed. 1971. The Code Veronica project is successful. The twins, Alfred and Alexia Ashford, are born. So they're the Weskers. That's Alfred and Alex Wesker. But they're Ashford for some reason. Okay. No, that can't be. Alfred, I read that as Albert for some reason. I don't think I did out loud, but I did for some reason. Doesn't matter. 1977, Albert Wesker and William Birkin joined the training facility as prospective managers. 1978, January. Marcus successfully develops the T-virus. July. The closure of the training facility is finalized. Wesker and Birkin transfer their T-virus research to the Arklay Research Facility. Marcus continues his own research in the closed-down training facility. 1981, July. Although only 10 years old, Alexia Ashford graduates at the top of her class from a prestigious university. Good for you. Birkin begins to view Alexia as a rival. Of course he did. In 1982, Alexia injects her father Alexander with the T. Veronica virus, but the experiment ends in failure. In 1983, December, Wesker researches secondary exposure to the T-virus, he begins to have reservations about Spencer's plan. Alexia injects herself with the T. Veronica virus and enters a 15-year cryogenic sleep. To maintain the secrecy of this plan, it is reported that she died of accidental exposure to the virus. So is that still in the Antarctic? 1987. Michael Warren becomes mayor of Raccoon City. I don't think I know him. 1988. Wesker, under orders from Spencer, assassinates Marcus. Oh. Under Birkin's guidance, the T-Virus program begins development of the BOW Tyrant. Umbrella begins work on the Nemesis project at its 6th European research facility in 1988. 10 years before they decide to actually unleash them. Okay. 1991. Umbrella begins construction of an expansive underground laboratory beneath Raccoon City. Spencer approves Birkin's G-Virus project and begins on it. Wesker is transferred to the Information Department. 1992. Umbrella contributes funds for the refurbishment of City Hall and the building of the General Hospital. A statue of Michael Warren is erected in City Hall. Okay. Okay. Cool. 1983, Raccoon City Police Chief Brian Irons begins conducting negotiations with Umbrella. Birkin transfers to the underground lab in Raccoon City, that's Nest. Clandestine meetings with Irons begins. So yeah, this was their plan to take over, I guess. Alfred Ashford graduates from university in England and becomes director of the Antarctic facility. He rises up the ranks to eventually become an executive of Umbrella and then director of Rockfort Island. Rockfort Island. I don't think I've been there. I don't think I've been there. December. A training facility for anti-BOW squad members is completed. That's STARS. 1994. John from the Chicago lab, there's one in Chicago, takes over for Birkin at the Arkley Research Facility. Okay. Alfred begins a private mansion and prison on Rockfort Island. Okay, Rockfort Island seems important. 1996, Raccoon City Police Department STARS team is founded with Wesker as the captain. Hunk, later of the Umbrella Special Forces, undergoes combat training at Rockfort Island. Rockfort's very important. Okay. So STARS will start in 96. 1998, May. A mysterious clone of Marcus appears at the Umbrella training facility. There is a large-scale viral leak at the Arkley mansion. The research lab there is destroyed. Cerberus claims its first victim, a 20-year-old woman whose body is found dismembered. Okay, so that's whoever that guy is in Zero that we don't really know too much about yet. He must be a clone of Marcus. And then the leak at the mansion's obviously the events of 1. Cerberus claims its first victim, a 20-year-old woman. I think that's why they go to the mansion. Cerberus sightings, June. Cerberus sightings are reported in a local Raccoon City magazine. Yeah, this is why STARS goes. Oh, hang on. Oh, okay, I see. It's not actually saying literally the lab's destroyed. Got you. It's just they can't use it anymore. July. 2 groups are sent to investigate the training facility. First one is wiped out by BOWs located on the premises. There is an increase in reports of accidents and missing persons in the Arkley Mountains. The city sends the STARS Bravo team to investigate. So in Zero, there's 2 teams of Umbrella forces there, but they've been killed in Zero. And the increase, and then that's the beginning of 0 and 1. Bravo team's helicopter experiences engine trouble for unknown reasons and is forced to put down in the Arklay Mountains. Bravo team takes the Ecliptic Express to investigate the training facility, which is later destroyed. So that's Rebecca and Billy. Alpha team is sent out to search for Bravo team when communication is lost. The occurrence of the mansion incident. Number 1. Bravo team leader Enrico Marini learns Wesker's true identity. Wesker murders Enrico. I think that's the guy he shot right in front of me. Ravaged by the virus, the mansion and the lab are destroyed. 4 members of Alpha team and 1 member of Bravo team escape the catastrophe. Survivors Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Barry Burton, Brad Vickers, and Rebecca Chambers. Wesker escapes the Arklay research facility before it is destroyed. I have no idea how he did that. August. Former STARS member Chris Redfield learns of the G virus and heads to Europe to investigate Umbrella. September. The virus spreads throughout Raccoon City via infected mice. The city is declared a biohazard as incidents of cannibalism continue to rise. Birkin completes work on the G virus. A zombie horde attacks the city's police station. Yeah, it did. It's the events of 2 now. The police station is destroyed, and Chief Irons descends into mania. Warren escapes the city, but leaves his daughter behind. The mayor's still alive. But his daughter, who's Catherine, is the one that was murdered by Irons. UBCS, Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service, arrives in the facility to begin rescue operations. So that's 3. Rookie police officer Leon S. Kennedy arrives in the city at the same time as Claire Redfield, so the beginning of 2. Umbrella deploys the BOW Nemesis T-Type into the city, and it begins its hunt for former STARS member Jill Valentine and Brad Vickers, it should be added. Umbrella deploys mass-produced tyrants. Umbrella deploys mass-produced tyrants into the city. How many? Leon and Claire escape the city with William and Annette Birkin's daughter Sherry. With the arrival of the US military, the city is placed under martial law. UBCS survivors are exploited by Umbrella's official observer of the situation, Nikolai Genovie, that's probably what it is. And they die off one by one. The hospital is destroyed. So that's the events of 3. The end of 2 and the events of 3. Because fuck Nikolai. Ada Wong and Hunk each acquire samples of the G virus. The underground lab in Raccoon City is destroyed. Fuck the pair of them. I don't think Hunk's a good guy. I know he works for Umbrella, which is pretty standard. October, the US government decides to eliminate the virus threat by destroying Raccoon City with a missile strike. December, Claire infiltrates the Paris laboratory, only to be captured and imprisoned on Rockfort Island. Okay, so she's there. Wesker attacks the island with his own private force and releases the T-virus onto the island. Claire escapes from the prison and sends an email to Leon asking for help. Her location is made known to Chris. Okay, Claire asks Leon for help, and Chris knows too. Okay, Jill escapes Raccoon City and goes to Chris's apartment, but he has already left for Rockfort Island. Alfred Ashford escapes the island. Chris arrives at Rockfort Island and finds Wesker. Okay, so the events of 3 are actually after 2. So Claire immediately after escaping because when is this? September. She immediately drops off Sherry somewhere, don't know where, and then immediately goes off to help Chris in France, but goes to a different place. Is captured. Wesker goes there. Claire escapes from the prison and asks Leon for help, and Chris finds out must be because he's already there. Then Jill escapes. So Raccoon City was down for a while, and goes to Chris's apartment, but he's already left for Rockfort Island. Okay. Alfred Ashford escapes Rockfort Island. Okay. Chris arrives at Rockfort Island and finds Wesker. Okay. Alexia Ashford wakes up from her cryogenic sleep at the Antarctic base. Alfred dies shortly after. Okay. Claire and Chris are reunited at the Antarctic base, and together they defeat Alexia. Okay. So, that's the Code Veronica game. They escape from the base. They escape before the base is destroyed. 2002. Jack Krauser fakes his own death and joins Wesker's secret organization. Okay. 2003, February. Chris and Jill take part in the mission to destroy the Umbrella Caucasus and Caucasus research facility in Russia. Chris and Jill go there. They were successful in destroying a new bioweapon, BOW, known as Talos. Okay. 2004. The US President's daughter, Ashley Graham, is kidnapped by the religious group known as Los Illuminados. The actual kidnapping was carried out by Krauser. Leon Kennedy was scheduled to join Ashley's Secret Service detail, but is ordered to find her instead. Okay. Leon Kennedy is injected with the Las Plagas parasite by the Los Illuminados. After that, he and Ashley, who is also infected with the same parasite, take shelter in a church. After escaping the village, Leon and Ashley are forced to seek refuge in an old city, but Ashley is once again apprehended. This time she is taken to an isolated island by Krauser under the orders of Ramon Salazar, the 8th head of the Salazar family. Leon confronts Salazar and defeats him. Leon heads to the island to find Ashley, and it is there that he defeats both Jack Krauser and Osmond Sadler, the leader of the Los Illuminados cult. Leon and Ashley use the facility on the island to remove the parasites. Ada Wong steals the Las Plagas parasite samples from Leon. Leon and Ashley escape from the island by jet ski. It sounds like this should be Resident Evil 6. Like, it sounds like Resident Evil 4 should have been that Code Veronica game. And then Resident Evil 5 should have been... Arguably, this could have been 6. Resident Evil 5 could have been that Talos one. Resident Evil 6 could have been Resident Evil 4, and this could have been Resident Evil 7. If they didn't do the spin-offs. Interesting. BSAA, number 2. Following... Fucking hell, this is going to take forever. Following the annihilation of Raccoon City, Umbrella was hit hard with multiple lawsuits for their involvement in the incident. But there was an organization that was hit even harder by the fallout of that incident, the Global Pharmaceutical Consortium, an organization comprised of pharmaceutical companies from around the world. Umbrella's development of and experimentation with bioorganic weapons, BOWs, along with the sale of those weapons on the black market, caused people to distrust the Global Pharmaceutical Consortium. I wonder why. And the fact that Umbrella was an executive board member only deepened their misgivings. If things had ended there, the consortium may have just escaped with a tarnished reputation. But in today's world, medicine is an integral part of almost all medical procedures. The public is also quite informed when it comes to which medications are trusted and which are not. If the population loses trust in the pharmaceutical company responsible for creating certain medications, it can quickly bankrupt said company. The Umbrella trials took a turn for the worst for the consortium when prosecutors presented evidence that incriminated many other pharmaceutical companies. Prosecutors showed that Umbrella acquired medicines and techniques developed by other companies and employed them in their own bioweapons research. They commissioned each of the respective companies to only partially develop certain medications so that they could not be traced to what was ultimately being developed. The responsible companies thus unwittingly contributed to the development of bioweapons. I see. Until this development in the case, the consortium looked at the lawsuits as Umbrella's problem. Now the problem was thrust in their laps as well. The companies that were linked to Umbrella faced the possibility of sharing blame for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of innocent people, and if Umbrella lost the lawsuits, they would face bankruptcy as well. Even if Umbrella was found not guilty of any wrongdoings, the negative publicity would not only be disastrous for sales, but the governments of the world would revoke the company's permits to sell their products. Not having permission to distribute their products and products worldwide would effectively dismantle their businesses. The pharmaceutical companies realized they had no choice but to take drastic measures to counter their dismal prospects. The consortium decided to strike a deal with the prosecutors. They would put all their effort into assisting with the case against Umbrella, even to the point of turning over any internal company documentation. The prosecutors in the case, being obsessed with seeing Umbrella fall, agreed to accept the help of the consortium companies. In return, they would not pursue legal action against them. In 2003, Umbrella was found guilty on all charges. With its fall, the scandal that rocked the pharmaceutical industry to its core could finally be put to rest. But Umbrella's dismantlement led to an unforeseen situation. In the fallout of Umbrella's collapse, BOWs began to show up on the black market. The weapons wound up in the hands of terrorists, guerrilla fighters, and unstable state governments. Soon the threat of these BOWs began to be felt around the world. Faced with a new Umbrella-like crisis, the Global Pharmaceutical Consortium knew they would have to take immediate action. It was then that the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, BSAA, was formed to fight threats from BOWs. Upon its initial foundation, only 11 elite individuals were made part of the BSAA. Their job was limited to that of observers to armies and police units around the world that conducted counter-bioterrorism operations. Unfortunately, the world's bioterrorism problem was much bigger than anyone had anticipated, and so a new course of action was required to handle the problem. To that end, consideration was given to creating a team that could react instantly to threats, but the BSAA was still only a civilian-led organization. They could not operate freely in sovereign nations and thus were unable to conduct investigations, make pertinent arrests, or even use force when the situation dictated it. It was clear now that the threat of bioterrorism was now the entire world's problem, and something would have to be done. The BSAA was then reformed under the UN's jurisdiction. As a UN-controlled special forces team, the BSAA's acceptance by the UN member states was taken as a given. The truth of the matter was that only 70% of the member states would approve of BSAA activities on their soil, but the remainder of the states would only approve BSAA activities in their countries on a conditional basis. This is how the current incarnation of the BSAA was formed. The BSAA's headquarters was located in England, but any further details of the location were not released to the public, since the BSAA's team had to be able to be deployed within 12 hours. It was assumed that they were located near an airport hub or an Air Force base. Some sources claim that the BSAA had bases in the area under their jurisdiction. The following is a list of areas under the jurisdiction of their respective BSAA branches: European headquarters, Europe and Western Russia; Middle East branch, the Middle East and part of Africa; the North American branch, the entire North American continent. Chris Redfield is stationed here. South American branch, the entire South American continent. West Africa branch, the western part of the African continent. Sheva Alomar is stationed here. East African branch, the eastern part of the African continent. Far East branch, eastern Russia and the countries east of India. Oceanian branch, Australia is the centre of operations for Oceania. Antarctica, where Umbrella's Antarctic base was located, falls under the jurisdiction of the Oceanian branch. Each BSAA branch had a considerable number of people on their tactical teams, most of them coming from police, special forces and militaries around the world. The support staff for the teams was also quite large, and they came mainly from government organisations in different countries. There were many groups of experts on the staff that proved technical, medical, physical and mental support to the teams. The BSAA's deployment teams were divided into two groups. The first group was the Special Operations Unit, SOU. The SOU was sanctioned to infiltrate an area, engage in combat and subdue offenders. Teams were usually comprised of 12 members, and each team was divided into 3 4-man cells. A special feature of the SOU is the flexibility of its personnel during operations. In order to match the skill of an operation, cells from other teams are brought in on a regular basis. For one specific joint operation, there are 70 elite members working together. Ooh. A special feature of the SOU is the flexibility of its personnel during operations. In order to match the scale of an operation, cells from other teams are brought in on a regular basis. For one specific joint operation, there were 70 elite members working together. I apologize. Dan Duchant is currently the leader of Alpha Team for this operation. The team is comprised of his own standard team along with cells from other teams. The designated Alpha Team will only be used for this operation, so he's dead, unfortunately. Reports indicate that because unknown BOWs are involved, the efficiency of the tactical team's methods for handling them may be low, and consideration is to be given to the strong points that raise their efficiency. Another key part of the BSAA is the Special Operation Agent, SOA. Usually they're referred to as just agents, and unlike the SOU, agents work alone. The agents are primarily involved in investigations and espionage activities, and as such they are considered the eyes and ears of the BSAA. During certain operations it may become difficult for tactical teams to penetrate to the front, so it's up to the agents to carry out the missions. During those types of missions, a 2-man cell is the basic deployment unit required to carry out the mission. Sometimes agents must go beyond the jurisdiction of BSAA branch to carry out their missions. Many of them are dispatched to areas with unlawful activities. This mission sees Agent Chris Redfield in that role, meeting up with Sheva. Agents who work alone are highly capable and they rank higher than SOU members. However, agents are not chosen so much for their abilities or technical prowess, but for the psychological state and aptitude in handling situations. Pardon me. In actual skills and abilities, they may be outperformed by SOU members. The BSAA is a public organisation with an international staff, but owing to the logistics of running such an organisation, it is a well-known fact that most of their funding comes from the Global Pharmaceutical Consortium. While this relationship has been the target of much criticism, the consortium's funding removes the financial burden from participating nations, and as such, any motivation to change the situation and incur unwanted expenses. As for the consortium, their sponsorship acts any motivation to change the situation and incur unwanted expenses. As for the consortium, their sponsorship acts as much needed industry. Wide PR service. So far, this partnership has been beneficial to all parties involved. On a final note, the 11 members who were part of the BSAA from the beginning are highly respected within the organisation and are known as the Original 11. The name comes from the original 7, who were the 7 astronauts selected for Project Mercury. One of these Original 11 is Chris Redfield. A number of other members of the Original 11 also work alongside many of the tactical teams. Okay, I wonder if it was like Chris, Claire, Leon and stuff like that. Okay. Magini. Listed below is what is currently known regarding the Las Plagas parasite. Though only recently discovered, the parasite, known as Las Plagas, was sealed away under the family castle of Castellan Ramon Salazar for many generations. The parasite attaches itself to a human host and is assimilated by the central nervous system. infected humans lose all rational thinking faculties and are wholly subject to control by another type of plaga known as a control plaga, usually another infected human. Hosts may lack rational thought function, but they still retain human-level intelligence, such as the ability to understand and communicate with each other. They can also use tools and are surprisingly crafty when working in groups against an enemy. Leon S. Kennedy documented his encounter with these infected humans in the Kennedy Report. In his report, they were referred to as the Ganados. The presence of Las Plagas in this mission has been confirmed. It is currently unknown how the parasites discovered in Europe came to be present in Africa. A known bioweapon smuggler, Ricardo Irving. Okay, because I found a note in the going through the Chris and Jill story, and it was the butler said that he gave a guy to Ricardo or Roberto or something like that. But that's who it is. He gave it to Irving. He searched for Irving. Right, okay, I got you. Irving's that guy that doesn't give a fuck. I see. Is wanted for Ricardo Irving is wanted for questioning regarding this matter. This information was obtained by the BSAA's Alpha team at great personal risk to themselves. Their report indicated that a Las Plagas sample was extracted from Europe and has undergone both biological and genetic modification, creating a more effective and potentially dangerous biological weapon. This modified Las Plagas has been classified by researchers as Type 2 Plagas. The presence of the Type 2 Plagas has been confirmed to be present in Africa by various intel reports. Type 2's initial infection characteristics vary from the original parasite's infection. The Las Plagas discovered in Europe were injected into humans during the egg phase. They would then reach maturity within the host body, at which point they would assume control of the host's central nervous system. With Type 2 infection occurs from a mature parasite, this requires it to enter the host orally, usually by being forced directly into the potential host's mouth. The observed result of this type of infection method is one of extreme muscular convulsions and uncontrolled body spasms. Also of note, whereas the original Las Plagas took anywhere from a few hours to a few days to assimilate a host, Type 2 requires almost zero maturation time. From this point alone, Type 2 is a much more efficient weapon. Infections of this type have already been witnessed by BSAA operatives currently stationed in the area. Type 2 takes over the central nervous system of infected humans and incapacitates normal rational thought faculties. The infected host becomes willing subjects to the ones that control them. However, to maximize their effectiveness as a weapon, the person who commands them, the person or persons who commands them do not need to possess a control plaga to do so. Okay. Hosts retain their intelligence, and the abilities of the host are dependent on the abilities inherent in the human before infection. This is the same as with the original version of Las Plagas parasite. It has been speculated that to raise their proliferation as a weapon, the parasite has been altered so that its hosts will actively infect others in order to increase their numbers. Okay. According to intel reports, Type 2 hosts are apparently known as Majini to weapon dealers. This word comes from the local language meaning evil spirit. Because the codename Type 2 exists, it is presumed that there are subsequent numbered types, e.g. Type 3 and Type 4. No confirmation of this, however, has been acquired at this time. Chris Redfield. Listed within this file is a general background information overview of BSAA agent Chris Redfield. As pieced together from various sources, the information listed here is neither complete nor should it be used as a psychological analysis of the subject. Chris Redfield began his military career in the United States Air Force. Possessing a service record replete with both commendations and disciplinary actions, commanding officers both have described Chris as uncompromising, possessing unwavering dedication, and having a high level of adaptability. It was with these traits that saw Chris earn his wings, but also the same traits that brought him into direct conflict with superiors. Unable to settle these differences, Chris retired from the United States Air Force. After retirement, Chris was scouted by Raccoon City Special Forces, STARS. Because of his superior firearm and hand-to-hand combat skills, along with his qualification as both fixed-wing aircraft and helicopter pilot, joining the STARS team, Chris was designated as Point Man, PM, for Alpha Team. As PM, it was his duty to scout and secure positions ahead of the team. His duties required him not only to be a good shooter and fighter, but also be able to use a wide array of weaponry. It was in this area where he excelled, showing the ability to handle anything from small arms to large weapons, and the flexibility to use them as the situation dictated. Chris's performance with STARS was exemplary. It appeared that he had finally found his niche, but fate had other plans in mind for Chris. Unbeknownst to him, the next chapter in his story was about to unfold on that fateful night in July 1998. The STARS Bravo team, responding to reports of disappearances in the surrounding areas of Raccoon City, abruptly went radio silent. Alpha Team was sent in to investigate shortly after their helicopter touched down. They were attacked by wild, ravenous canines known as the BOW Cerberus, and were forced to take refuge in a nearby mansion. The mansion was in reality the Arklay research facility for the pharmaceutical giant Umbrella. It was at this facility that they developed bioweapons and conducted uncounted illegal experiments. Here, Chris and his partner Jill Valentine were forced to combat numerous BOWs as part of an active tactical research plan devised by Albert Wesker. Wesker was the commanding officer of STARS and therefore Chris and Jill's superior. Though all his actions were done at the behest of the Umbrella Corporation, Wesker used his rank in STARS to manipulate Chris and Jill. Wesker unleashed several BOWs into the mansion in order to gather data for his own ends. This tragedy in the Arklay Mountains became known as the Mansion Incident, and ended with Chris and Jill destroying the creature known as Tyrant, the death of Wesker, and destruction of the laboratory. Having survived the incident in the mansion, Chris attempted to notify the authorities regarding Umbrella's activities, but all his warnings were ignored due to Umbrella's powerful sway. Having exhausted this option, he attempted to notify the US government of the situation. This too, however, proved fruitless. He knew that taking on such a large corporate entity alone would not be easy, and might in fact prove fatal. But in the end, he was left with no other choice. Thus, Chris continued his investigation on his own. Without informing his family of his intentions, he soon departed for Europe. So that's why Claire went. He didn't actually say to her. Chris wanted to shield his family from any ill effects his investigation might occur, but ironically it brought one of his family members into the fray. When Claire Redfield was unable to get in contact with her brother, she journeyed to Raccoon City to find him. Upon arrival in the city, she found the area awash in the terror brought on by the spread of the T-virus. In that land of death and confusion, Claire met Leon S. Kennedy, and together they were able to fight their way out of the city. After the Raccoon City ordeal, Claire flew to Paris to investigate Umbrella's activities in Europe, but she was captured and sent to Rockfort Island. When Chris learned from Leon what had happened to Claire, he made his way to Rockfort Island to free her. It was there that Chris was confronted with many harsh facts. Umbrella had a research facility in Antarctica. Alexia Ashford was still alive. There was a new virus called T. Veronica, and most surprisingly of all, Albert Wesker was still alive. The man behind the horror of the mansion incident, Chris's former commanding officer, somehow survived the destruction of the mansion. Once again, Chris was unwittingly thrust into one of Wesker's schemes, and he was forced to face the man whose destiny appeared to be intertwined with his own. Chris was easily overpowered by Wesker's inhuman strength, but luck was on Chris's side that day. In the ensuing conflagration that consumed the island, Chris and Wesker's conflict was put on hold for the time being. With his resolve strengthened, Chris determined that no matter at what personal cost to himself, Umbrella would fall. Fast forward to 2003. Chris is in the skies over Russia. Chris is in the skies over Russian. Yeah. Okay. Mistype there. Chris is in the skies over Russia. His partner Jill Valentine by his side. At this point, Umbrella was in dire straits in the wake of the destruction of Raccoon City. The company became embattled in litigation, and their stock price plummeted. It was only a matter of time before Umbrella collapsed. It was during this time that Chris learned of Umbrella's plan to develop a new type of BOW. Chris and Jill had obtained information and were headed to the Caucasus laboratory where the Talos plan was being conducted in secret. They were to rendezvous with an anti-bioterrorism unit and attack the location. Not long after this incident, the only seemingly untouchable Umbrella was officially no more. The once seemingly untouchable Umbrella was officially no more. The seed that Umbrella sowed, however, would continue to reap tragedy for the world. BOWs were no longer restricted to areas of conflict, but were now being used in terrorist attacks against innocent civilians. It was at this time that Chris and Jill joined the BSAA, a group dedicated to eliminating those bioweapons. Yeah, Jill is a member. The two of them traversed into the world together, partners in the fight to bring bioterrorists to justice. The shadow of Umbrella still loomed large, though, as they would soon discover. When Chris and Jill went to question Umbrella's founder, Oswald E. Spencer, about Wesker's whereabouts, they were greeted by the sight of Umbrella's founder lying crumpled on the floor and the blood-stained figure of Wesker standing over him. This would be the third confrontation between Chris and Wesker. This time the confrontation ended in tragedy as Jill, seeing no other option, made the ultimate sacrifice to stop Wesker. With one last effort, she charged Wesker and threw both herself and him over the side of a cliff. The BSAA searched for Jill's body for 3 months, but no trace of her was ever found. After 3 months of searching with no success, Jill Valentine was officially declared dead by the BSAA. No one knows what promises Chris made in front of Jill's empty grave, but following her loss, he redoubled his efforts to eradicate all bioorganic weapons, wherever they may be, initially stationed at BSAA's North American branch. His investigations soon took him around the world. He became involved in so many operations that he soon had more missions to his name than any other BSAA member. During one of his investigations, Chris learned of an upcoming bioweapons deal in Africa, in connection with a man named Ricardo Irving. Irving's name has come up quite often of late in association with bioweapons smuggling. After informing the BSAA's African branch about Irving, Chris urgently requested permission to participate in the operation to arrest Irving. As for the reasons he wished to participate in this mission, Chris would not comment. Whether he is withholding information or not is unclear. As one of the most respected BSAA agents, his presence in this operation greatly increases the chance of success, thus his request has been granted. How many did I say? 12. Alright, I think 4 an episode is probably fine because holy hell, there's a lot to unpack there. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll jump into Sheva Alomar next episode. Goodbye.